Oh yeah, let's go! First half for Fiji, boy.
How come?
I'm watching it live on Facebook.
Seriously, my uncle just sent the score for the second half. Huh? Yo!
But your uncle know I'm watching it live on Facebook. We just 3 minutes into the first half.
Hey,
What your uncle know?
You don't know anything.
Hey!
We trying to do some work here. What's happening?
We're watching Fiji's game live on Facebook. I'm watching it live and his uncle saying things. What your uncle know?
It's not the same.
Yo,
Both of you.
What the?
Right. Wrong. The game already over.
Huh?
Fiji Village.
Man.
Get the latest sports updates. Download the Fiji Village app now.
Good evening, Bula Vinaka. I am Vijay Narayan. You're watching Fiji Village Street Talk. Tonight, we have Swai-shipping Fijian Drua CEO Mark Evans, who's in studio with us, talking about the Drua. What an amazing game over the weekend, where the Drua, with only 1% chance, they were given 1% chance to win against the defending champions, the Giants of Super Rugby, the Crusaders, and Churchill Park came alive from around 3:30 in the afternoon when our boys created the magic and, of course, the history that followed when the final whistle was blown and Kemu Valetini taking that penalty kick that sealed the win for the Drua. Mark, pleasure on behalf of our viewers and listeners to have in studio just a few days after the historic win.
Well, no, thanks for inviting me. Much appreciated.
Now, you've settled into the position for the Drua as the CEO. How things have been since you started?
Well, I'm really enjoying it. I thought I would, but I am really enjoying it. And, startups, which is what we are interesting and exciting. And I have to keep reminding myself, because I've come, obviously, in October after the first very strange, fragmented first season, which obviously ended really well with 2 great games in Fiji. But a lot of the team, the off-field team, that is, they weren't there last year either. So I have to keep reminding myself that actually a lot of these people have not done this before. So Saturday, both on the field was great, but off the field, that was a big learning curve for us. There were lots of things that we'll do better next time. You probably would never have noticed. I'm sure it's like your business. Things are going wrong all the time, but the viewers don't notice. Our business is a bit like that. Loads of things not quite happening, but the fans don't notice, and neither does the team. And that's the way you want it, really. But we learned a lot, and it was great to get a win. I don't buy that 1% nonsense. I don't think, I think that must have been a fan poll. I don't think you'd have got that from a coach's poll. I reckon any Fijian home game, and I do mean any Fijian home game, there's at least a 20% chance the Fijian team will win it. Even if you look at the 2 teams and think, well, if you played this in Australia or England or wherever, you'd heavily back this lot. I don't think in Fiji, if a Fijian team is playing, you'd heavily back the really good. Yeah, the All Blacks. You'd still think they beat Fiji in Fiji, but you wouldn't be absolutely certain. It's a difficult place to come. It is. The climate's difficult. The heat's difficult. The whole sort of ambience of it, the crowd's very enthusiastic and very fair. I think that my Kiwi friends say it's the only country in the world where they don't get booed. It's Fiji, but it was. I'm really enjoying it. We got a long way to go yet. This is to win 2 of the first 3 games is a good start, and I think we've had a really good off season sponsorship wise, and we've still got a bit of work to do on the ticketing side and what have you, but we'll maybe come on to that later.
So you off the seat a few times with your good wife cheering away?
Yeah, she's a lot more demonstrative than me. I get very nervous during games, actually. I did when I was a coach. I probably did when I was a player, actually. And nervous or worried. Are those the two things? I just worry a lot. And to get over that, particularly when you're on, there's lots of cameras and whatever. When I was a coach years back, I developed this. I was one of those coaches who never moved and didn't show anything on his face at all. Didn't make. We might have just scored a 95-meter, 17-man. I know there aren't 17 players, 17-man move, and I just go. And we could then miss a tackle and they go under the sticks and I'd try and look exactly the same. That was the way I dealt with it. But my wife's much more demonstrative. She'd only been in Fiji a day. So she was much more demonstrative than me. But inside, I'm turning cartwheels.
The fans were definitely ecstatic after the game. Great win. What was the feeling in camp after the historic victory?
Oh, really pleased. But what I found quite impressive, and I know the coaches did too, was that nobody was getting particularly carried away. Sometimes when you have an upset, and let's be fair, I don't think it was 1% to 99%. I saw that meme as well. I thought that was ridiculous. Mind you, so did some of the players. So that was quite interesting. I was impressed, and I know some of the coaches were as well, that the reaction wasn't, they were very pleased, they were very proud, but they weren't out of control excited. It wasn't like it was, you play, it's game 3 of a, 14 game schedule. And we've had a decent start and we've just won a game that not many people expected us to win. Well, that's great. But it's only a start. And that was the feeling I got from the group. Really pleased. Quite emotional on the final whistle. But I think any team will be. When you beat somebody on the wire, right, on the siren or whatever phrase you want to use, and you know that once he's kicked this, it's finished. It comes down to one action. It's very dramatic. That's why we watch sport, isn't it? For the uncertainty of outcome. Very, very upbeat. Very, very. It was the same in Moana, and I think in Moana in Auckland we won. It was more relief. I think that was a game where the players felt they would win and nearly didn't. So I think Dan's try at the end there in Auckland was like relief as much as anything else, whereas this one was like joy. Because it's a dream, I'm sure, for some of them to beat the Crusaders. Because I know it's a team that many Fijians followed for many, many years through Super Rugby. And to be playing them in your own backyard is a great privilege. But to beat them, and I know they weren't entirely at full strength and all the rest of it, but at the end of the day, they've taken sides like that away in Super Rugby before and won quite regularly, okay? So let's not denigrate the achievement, but it's only the 3rd game. And we won't, if we go through the rest of the season and don't win another game, nobody will think back and think, remember the game in the top when we beat the Crusaders. That's just not how sport works. It's a good start. And this week we're in Queensland, which I think is a tricky game. Again, a game not many would expect us to win. And how we play away is going to be really interesting. Most new teams build by winning games at home. I don't think we'll be any different. Doesn't mean you're not competitive away. Doesn't mean you don't win away, but it is undoubtedly more difficult. All sport tells you that in all different codes. Winning away from home is what the very, very best teams do. So we'll see. We've got 2 opportunities now. We're going to Brisbane and we're going to Dunedin before we come back home to Suva. See how we go. I think didn't pick up any injuries, anything significant anyway. Even in Johnny Karoy is fine. Didn't fail an HIA. So we're in quite good shape. we've still got a few long-term injuries. Simi obviously won't play there. H is still out. Masaki's still out. I probably missed one or two, but not many. You know, for 4 weeks in, we're relatively sort of unscarred, so that's good.
Just a win against the Crusaders, because even when it comes to rugby, in the rugby worlds, Super Rugby, they're the giants of Super Rugby, and taking them down in that game at home, no doubt goes down in the history books. From the perspective of the franchise itself, what does it mean?
Well, you sort of have, like any startup in any franchise in sport, you have little, I suppose, milestones that you want to try and reach, you know, and one is to get in the competition. That was a big milestone. And then it was to play in the competition. That was a big milestone. And then it was to get your first win in the competition, which we did get 2 last season. And one of the next ones, you go, right, beat our first New Zealand team, right? Because we didn't beat any of them last year. When we've beaten one now, it happens to be a very high profile one, but they're all pretty good. There isn't a weak New Zealand team in the comp. Time will tell whether the Crusaders are the best New Zealand team this year. They might not be. You know, you might look back and say, well, actually, it was the Chiefs. They set the benchmark this year, or it was the Blues, or the Canes. I mean, I've got to be honest, I don't think it'll be the Highlanders, but, you know, although they had a really tough first 3 games, I don't think they'll be bottom either, but I don't think they'll be top 4. So, you know, now we'll go and say, well, you could argue we've beaten an Australian team away because we did it last season. We beat the Rebels on, I suppose, neutral ground. I suppose the next one might be beat a Kiwi team away. That would be a really big benchmark. So, you know, we'll have 2 or 3 chances to have a go at that this year. And you just look to improve year on year. You know, we won 2 games last year. We don't set targets. We just want to play better. And I think that's the most encouraging thing. I think first game, I didn't think we played very well. But we won and we scrapped and we were, you know, we hung in and came back. Second game, I thought we played miles better. And then a combination of circumstances against the Waratahs. Around about the 50-minute mark, when we were 17-10 up, we had a chance to go 24-10 up. We didn't take that chance. They came down the other end. Instead of being 14 points up, you're level. Then we get a yellow card. Then we get an injury, and the whole thing quickly unravels. And at the highest level, that can happen. The thing can quickly. You can be competitive on the hour mark. Something happens, and the whole thing unravels, and you lose by 25. It happens. It does.
Time, the score was 10-all.
And then we went ahead.
And then it went 17.
Yeah. So I thought week 2 we played a lot better, even though you looked at the score and thought, oh dear. I thought we played much better. And then week 3, we played better. We played better for 80 minutes. We didn't start great, but we didn't start badly. And we were 12-0 down. So that shows a lot of resilience. Lots of sides then fold. We didn't. And in fact, I think we should have been ahead at half time. We had a number of chances, which we didn't take. We dropped the ball over the line. You saw the game too, so I won't go over that. But I felt actually the final score didn't really do us justice. I thought we were the better team by about. They had chances too in the first 20 minutes. I thought we were the better team by about 10 to 15 points, which is a good indication of 2 things. Of A, we are improving. I don't think anybody would say, looking how the team played last year, forget the results, look at how they played in the different facets of the game. I think most people would say we're a better team now. We've improved our line out, we've improved our scrum, we're making fewer. This is all going to go probably terribly on the weekend. This will look stupid, but you know, we're turning the ball over less in contact. We're just looking more cohesive.
A lot of talk about the kicking. Some more going into that.
In what out of hand or from the place kicking?
The place kicking.
Oh, right. Okay. Well, let's separate the 2 things. I think that I think both of the fly halves, shame to lose Caleb for a few weeks now, because I thought he played well in the first 2 games and kicked out of hand very well. I thought Teddy kicked really well out of hand at the weekend. I thought he played very well. I thought his passing was good. I thought his choice of options was good. Unfortunately, he had one of those nightmare days with the place kicking. It happens. Or you talk to any place kicker, they have days like that. You know, you've seen days when he's kicked everything. So I don't worry too much about that. Place kicking is what we coaches call a closed skill. There's nobody else there. It's just you. It's like throwing in. It's like a restart. You just do it. You practice it and you do it. But it's quite a difficult skill. You know, it's like a pole vaulter or a high jumper. They're closed skills as well. And some days it just doesn't. All the different bits just don't quite come together. Doesn't mean you don't go out next week and kick 5 out of 6.
You're watching Fiji Village Street Talk. I'm Vijay. We'll be back after this break.
Download the all-new Fiji Village app. Get the latest news direct to your mobile. Get the latest sports updates from our scoreboards online. Navigate easily through our categories. Watch videos from Straight Talk interviews, local music videos, sports, and many more. You can now easily listen to your favorite radio stations from your phone. Download the all-new Fiji Village app right now.
Welcome back. You're watching Fiji Village Street Talk. I'm Vijay Narayan. Our guest tonight, the CEO of Suva Shipping Fiji and Drua, Mark Evans. Mark, what are some of the main difficulties and obstacles when hosting international teams here?
Location. Actually, most of the problems are down to something none of us can control. You know, Fiji is geographically isolated. It's a long way from anywhere of any significant population size, as part of its attraction, of course, and also why its residents feel so patriotic about the country, because when you're isolated, it reinforces that. That's one of the things I like about the country. But when you're doing things like when you're having to produce, for example, an international standard broadcast, that's expensive because a lot of the infrastructure you haven't got on the island. And we work under quite unusual climatic challenges that you have to, even if you have a lovely, lovely day like we have on Saturday, you've got to plan for a storm, you know. So there's a lot of cost sitting around things like broadcast that other teams don't have to grapple with. Then there's the stadia, and look, Churchill Park, have all credit to them, the council at Latoka. They've really tried and will continue to try, I'm confident, to improve the facility. And I know you were there on the weekend, and you couldn't have failed to see that there was some significant upgrades. You know, there were the bucket seats in the concrete grandstand. There were three new stands as you went around the south side of the ground. I thought the pitch was in great nick. And I know it's not easy in Fiji, but I thought the pitch with the guys have done a really good job with the surface. So I think it's getting there. Look, that's not to say that both stadia, Suva and Churchill Park, are really where we'd like them. We have to bring in a lot of things. You know, the changing rooms are a little small. You know, there's a lot of things, but partly it's all part of playing in Fiji, and it's all part of home advantage. And but you can't drive that too far. From a business point of view, I suppose the most challenging thing is that most rugby and most sports clubs, but certainly rugby clubs that I've obviously had a lot of experience in various parts of the world, we always used to talk about, well, we are a bit like a stool where we got 3 legs, and you've got to get all 3 of the legs right, because you've got this thing you've got to support, which is expensive, which is called players and coaches and analysts and strength and conditioners and training centers, all of which are a cost, you know, and you basically got, to support that cost base, you've got three legs. You've got sponsorship, which, to be fair, we've done really well in this year. Shane Hussein and his team have done a great job. And the commercial sector of the country have really stepped up. Absolutely fantastic. From Swire Shipping all the way through ANZ, through, I can't name them all the way down to the relatively small partners. They've really come to the party, and we're very, very appreciative of that. The second thing is crowd attendance, ticketing. And, we've got the best fans in the world. We know that. And the highlight shows that went around the world, you would not believe the number of people, friends of mine in Europe who saw them, who text me and sort of twittered and stuff. It was just fantastic. It looks brilliant. It's vibrant. It's emotional. I want to know if the tree paid to get in. Did you see that clip?
Yes.
I want to know if that tree paid $20 to get in the embankment, right? Because otherwise I'm going to go and find it and charge it, because we don't do free tickets. But that sort of thing is just brilliant, right? So, and that's really important to us because, and I'll come back to that in a minute, because the third sort of leg of the stool we don't have, and probably never will to the same degree as the other teams, which is broadcast revenue. Now, we do get a bit of broadcast revenue, we do, but it really we don't make any money because the costs are even higher. Whereas virtually every side of the other side of the competition, because their broadcast market, their home market, is so much more populated than Fiji will ever be. That's what drives, I don't have to tell you this, that's what drives TV. That's what drives rights fees. So our rights fee income is never going to match the Waratahs or the Blues or the Crusaders. It just won't. And it's pure fantasy to think it ever will. Do I think it could get closer? Do I think it would help the competition if there was a more equitable distribution? Yes. But I'm a realist as well. I don't think we're ever going to get all 12 teams getting the same broadcast revenue as you do in some competitions. I don't think we'll ever get there. Mainly because we're in 3 different countries or 4 different countries. Which means our crowd revenues have got to be strong. They've got to be strong because we haven't got the third one. And the sponsorship revenues already are very strong. Our crowd revenues, the crowds are brilliant. And I don't want anyone to get the wrong idea here. Our crowds are, I do honestly think, they're the most enthusiastic, vocal rugby fans anywhere in the world. And I say that someone comes from Wales. So, where we tend to pride ourselves on that. Well, we used to anyway. But they're just fantastic. And the team really, really appreciate it. But there is a but coming, I'm afraid. We played 3 games on the island now. 2 last year, 1 last year, and we've never sold the ground out. Now, I know that might come as a bit of a surprise to some people, because if I read one more report or hear one more broadcast saying sell-out crowd at Lautoka, it's just not true. So let me give you some numbers. I'd hate to be, sort of labour the point, but I will. So it looked great on television at the weekend. It looked fantastic, right? And when you were there, you thought, yeah, it's pretty full, isn't it? No, it was about 2/3 full. We sold about 8,500 tickets of a 12,000-seater stadium. There were 4,000 tickets not sold. But you walked around Namaka and Nandi and Lautoka in the week and everyone's going, sold out, sold out. They just sort of, I think people just saw the photo, they just saw the TV clips from last year. And it's sold out. And I can't get a ticket. And honestly, we really think there was some real confusion in the market that people didn't realize there were still lots of tickets available. And there were. Last year at Suva, I've heard so many commentators, it wasn't sold out. I've seen the numbers. There were 2,000 tickets not sold.
That's for the Highlanders game.
For the Highlanders game. And neither, Chiefs game Chiefs wasn't sold out either. Chiefs game, none of the 3 Super Rugby Pacific games in Fiji yet have sold out. So, next time, right, let's sell out Suva. On April the 1st, there's a double header. Great. You're not getting paid any more. You've paid the same amount as you would for just the men's game. You got the Super W champions, the Fijian Drua, playing the Rebels at 1:00. Then you've got the mighty Fijian Drua playing the Rebels at 3:00 or 3:30. I can't quite remember. Doesn't matter. You'll be there early to watch the women anyway. And our aim is to sell out Suva for that weekend, to have 15,000 tickets sold. And to help that, we've had a look at our pricing, and we've decided that we're going to cut some of the prices quite significantly to make them more affordable for more people, because we'd rather have 15,000 people in the stadium hanging off the rafters, making even more of a noise than they make. All right, they make already.
We'll talk about the prices after this. But my question, Mark, in relation to the message of a sellout.
Yes.
The importance of the viewers and listeners to know that the message of a sellout has to come from the Drua itself, not from somebody
quite right
commenting or analysing that there were tickets sold out.
That's true. I agree with you. However, there's no doubt that, and I don't think, some of it wasn't commentary, some of it was just visual, people looking at the footage from last year and going, well, it's sold out, isn't it? It'll just automatically sell out. And it wasn't. And then we did make a mistake. We should put our hands up. We made a mistake this time around. We learned a lot from the first game. And I've used that, I'll put my hand up, my mistake. So usually in most countries, when you get one of the stands or one of the areas sold out, you promote that. You say, oh, the south stand is sold out, the north stand is sold out, because that people go, oh, right, I better go and get a ticket because that stand's sold out. So we did that, and I think that got confused. I think all people heard was sold out. That's all they heard. They didn't hear south stand sold out or north stand sold out, because it seemed to reinforce the misconception. So we're going to have to work harder at getting a message out. We're talking about maybe we'll put something on the websites and stuff about how many tickets are left and then change it every day or something. I don't know. We're still playing around with it. But it's really important, because that only two legs on the stool thing, that it's important from the playing point of view. The players love playing at home. And they love the crowd and they love the noise. And it is really part of the whole home field Fijian advantage. So we want to get as much of that, as many people as we can. It's important for us financially, of course. But at the same time, we recognize that we've got to make it affordable for people. You can't just, and so that we've made some changes in that area too.
Talking about players, the danger of losing players, you will have up-and-coming players coming, playing on the world stage against the best in the world, against a number of All Blacks, Wallabies.
Yeah.
Given that opportunity, the danger of losing them to other clubs as soon as they start shining. What's your risk management plan in relation to that?
Well, that's a really good point. And I agree with you entirely. As your profile goes up, people look more closely at your players. Of course they do. But to be fair to Fiji, that's not a new phenomenon. People have been looking at Fijian players from the age of 15, 16 for years and years and years. You look at the number who leave the island for New Zealand and Australian high schools. You look at the number who go off to France at 19, 20 to play in the Espoir, for one of the top 14 teams. It's not a new phenomenon. However, we've got to do some things that minimize that. I'm not going to say get rid of it, because I don't think you can. We've only got 37 places in the squad, and there are over 200 Fijian players of Fijian heritage playing professional rugby somewhere in the planet, not for the Drua. So what we must do is give our players longer contract. Try that again. What we must do is give our players longer contracts. So it's no good just saying, oh, well, year on year, 1 year, and then we'll talk about it, and then next year we'll talk about it, because You don't build any cohesion that way. Successful teams have a core of players who've been together for quite a while. Now, we're only in our second season, so by definition, we haven't got that. But what we've got to try and do is through the way we call it list, well, everyone calls it list management, through the way we manage our player list and backing our own judgment and making early decisions and not waiting too long. Because where you tend to lose players, really good players, is when they have a breakout season. Now, if you don't know before the breakout season that this player's got a lot of upside and is likely to suddenly burst on the scene, you should have done something about that. You knew you had an opportunity because he trains with you every day. You know exactly what he's like as a person. You know what he's like as a player, as a trainer. If you think he's that good, you should back yourself and offer more security. In the same way, the other key thing about this, which I think we've already gone quite a long way to address, is every club loses players to rival clubs. That happens all over the world. One of the ways you are able to mitigate that is if you keep producing your own from below, it's much easier to manage the rest. So, for example, this year we started a development squad. We had 12 players in it, and I would say, without naming them, I think we might have published one or two of them, but I'm not going to just in case we haven't. And I know that next year, 5 of those, or maybe 6 actually, 6 of those are going to take a place in the top squad of 37. Right? Well, which means by definition, some people will leave, but not because you've lost them, but because you've sort of replaced them from below. And all the strongest team, look at one of the reasons the Crusaders have been so good for so long is their production line of talent from the bottom has been so good. They've done other things. That on its own won't do it, but without it, it's really difficult. So I think the two things are consistently produce players from your own pathways. So the under 20s are really important. The HPU is really important. Identifying players in Deans is really important. Identifying even younger than that and we'll probably start looking at contracts for 16-year-olds quite soon. Not many, but the absolute standout players and then we can control their playing program, which might be in New Zealand for a couple of years when they're still in school. It might be in Australia, but that we'll have an input into that, which we haven't had previously. That we have our development squad for our 18 to 22-year-olds, and that's constantly producing 2 or 3 players every year who go into the top squad. And in the top squad, we give people longer contracts, and we don't just go from year to year to year to year. I think if you do all those 3 things consistently, I think we've got a good chance of being a consistently strong team for a long time.
Now, for clarity, it would be important to talk about this player welfare, insurance, player management, how to deal with this group of players who come into being part of a Super Rugby franchise. We've got the story about Napoleone Mbolada, the national sevens player, needing knee surgery, New Zealand $30,000. A lot of talk about that, but he had left the Drua and rejoined the sevens team. And the other issue is that he was seconded and back to FRU and was selected in the squad for France and London sevens. The comments that are being made is what happens to players like this. I know there have been some surgeries done. The players within the Drua squad, if you can tell the people how it works.
Sure. Right. Well, it worked at the beginning of the Drua journey differently to how it will work going forward and does work now. When you are a new franchise, you have to put a squad of players together from scratch. You have to go from 0 to 35, 37, almost overnight, which is, and they've all got to be Fijian heritage. That's quite hard. So with the best will in the world, I think it's fair to say that some decisions were made about players with quite, I'm going to say serious injuries, but injuries that were troubling, shoulders and knees particularly. So 1 or 2 with ankles as well, the joints. And players with those kinds of injuries, you normally probably wouldn't sign. If we were now and we're looking at a player and we do the medical screening and we go, well, actually he needs a shoulder operation. He's going to be out for 4 months. Excuse me. We'd think long and hard about whether would then make that commitment, or whether there might be another player who's nearly as good or as good for about the same price who passed the medical with flying colours. I'm not saying you wouldn't sign in, but you might not. I think at the beginning, it was a question, we just got to put a squad together. And there were a number of players, of which one you've mentioned, who once we did screen them, and some of which we knew and some of which we didn't, and I wasn't around at the time, but I've done the research, had quite serious sort of things that needed, well, what did it need? They needed constant monitoring, because many of them have been playing on them for years and years and years. I mean, that's an extraordinary thing about some Fijian players. They can have no ACL, and it happened 6 years ago, and they've adjusted to it. It's extraordinary. I've never known anything like it anywhere else in the world. It might be a shoulder. It might be any number of things. So what do? You monitor it, because sometimes the best thing to do is just do nothing. You treat it conservatively, and if none of that works, and or they then have a particular event that makes it worse, you put them in for surgery. And I could give you, I'm not going to, because I think it breaches medical confidentiality, but I could say, what I can say is we had 5 or 6 of that initial group would fall into that category. The majority of them are still with us. There came a point where they needed an operation. The operation was done. The rehab was done. We lost them for however many months. We kept paying them, and they're still on contract. And there were many, many similarities. Some of those boys, not the one you mentioned, had that for 5, 6, 7 years. Often at school. Often the injury was at school, and it never got picked up. And if I was going to use this as an example of an area where we as a game need to try and make some improvements, the way injuries are covered at schoolboy level here could do with a really long, hard look. Because there's too many boys knocking about in their early 20s with injuries they've been carrying for 4 or 5 years, which actually means they're not the player they could be. They're still very, very good. Don't get me wrong. If I told you some of the players that's involved, there's some very high profile players, but they can't possibly be functioning as high as they could if they'd had the surgery done when they were 16, 17, 18. I'll give you a good another good example. So we've got 3 of our development squad that I mentioned, the 12 below the top who joined us in September, 3 of them are already in surgery. They came to us and we knew they had it. And we knew we'd have to operate. We'd have to get the surgery done. And we knew we'd have to pay for that. And we knew they wouldn't play for us for a while. But we still think they can make it, or they've got a good chance. But they have to have the surgery done first. So this particular example, why didn't that happen? Well, it never got to surgery, and he then got his contract terminated for things nothing to do with injury. Nothing to do with injury. And then he went back to another organisation. So I do find some of the reporting, factually incorrect. But we put out a statement. That's what happened. I challenge anybody to say that is not an accurate portrayal of events, and we'll move on.
Thanks for that clarification for the people of Fiji. There are also concerns about unofficial merchandise of the Drua.
I bet that doesn't worry the people of Fiji. It probably worries me more than that, doesn't it? Really?
Definitely worries you as a franchise. As you said, that the more finance you can get, the better for the franchise.
Yeah, and look, it's merchandise is almost a function of crowd base. The higher your crowd base is, the higher your fan base is, the more merchandise you sell, right? And again, some of our fans will never buy merchandise. We understand that, right? They will, or they might buy one every couple of years, a little bit every couple of years, because it's a question of price and a question of affordability. But you're doing a half decent job when you start getting pirated merchandise on the streets at a third of the price, and it's not your gear. And we do chase it down quite hard. We're not worried about, a family whose, grandson is playing for us or whatever, and they come to the game and they put his face on the shirt that's fine, right? It's only when someone's trying to make a commercial return off the back of our intellectual property that we get a bit irate about it. But it happens all over the world. It doesn't happen to you if people don't like you. So I sort of take it as a backhanded compliment, even though we do pursue it quite vigorously.
You're watching Fiji Village Straight Talk. I'm Vijay Narayan. We'll be back after this break.
Download the all-new Fiji Village app. Get the latest news direct to your mobile. Get the latest sports updates from our scoreboards online. Navigate easily through our categories. Watch videos from Straight Talk interviews, local music videos, sports, and many more. You can now easily listen to your favorite radio stations from your phone. Download the all-new Fiji Village app right now.
Welcome back. You're watching Fiji Village Straight Talk. I'm Vijay Narayan. Our guest tonight, Swai Shipping Fijian Drua CEO Mark Evans. Mark, a lot has been said about sellout or no sellout. You have made it clear it wasn't a sellout. None of the Drua games at home haven't been a sellout. A lot of people are talking about almost no seats empty in Lautoka last Saturday. Please clarify.
Well, the facts are none of the 3 Super Rugby games based in Fiji so far have sold out. The game in Suva last year against the Highlanders was about 2,000 short of a sellout. The game in Lautoka last year was about 2,500 short of a sellout. And the game this year in Lautoka, because we put more seats in, so it's a higher capacity, was about 4,000 short of a sellout. So we've had a look and we've decided that we need to provide better value or more value. So we brought in a new pricing policy for Suva, which has showed some quite significant reductions in prices for certain categories. And we'll do the same for Lautoka for the next game against the Blues. Because, as I said to you earlier, for a whole host of reasons, one of which is team performance, that's probably the most important, and the second of which is financial, we'd rather have stadiums that were actually full and people paying a bit less than, 2/3 full and paying a bit more. The money's probably about the same, although I hope with the sellout it might be a bit more. But it seems to me daft to have a rugby-mad country now finally in a premium competition and we're not selling out the stadiums that aren't that big. I know the population of Fiji is not huge, but in relation to the size of the island, 12 and a bit at Lautoka and 15 at Suva is not huge. They're about the right size. So I think that with the right pricing and the right marketing, and we've got to also make sure it's easy for people to buy tickets, so people in Fiji have traditionally turned up on the day and bought at the turnstile or maybe bought at the council offices or the sports office. Now they can buy jacks from last year and they can do it again this year and they can do that weeks in advance, or they can do it on the day of the game. And then of course now they can buy online on their phone. At any point they can do it in the lunch hour, they can do it at home, whatever. We don't care which way they use it. We're just trying to make it convenient for people. Some people buying a ticket on the day is almost part of their day out. You know, it's part of the whole ritual of it. They like going up to the box office and saying, I'll have one for the Conquering Embankment, please, and I'll have one for Milan, and, you know, all that sort of, they like that. Other people think, I'm always losing my ticket. I'm going to buy it on my phone. I want that seat in that stand, and I'm going to buy it now, 3 weeks in advance, and I know I've got it. And we've got to cater for all those people. We're not making any judgments about one being better than the other. We've just got to keep thinking about ways to make buying a ticket to watch their team easier.
Your theme is let's sell Suva out.
Let's sell out Suva.
Let's sell out Suva. What is the ticket pricing like for the Suva game?
We've reduced the prices of 13 of the 15,000 places. The only prices that are as they were last year are right at the top end, which is, to be honest, not very many go on sale. They're a lot of the VIPs, government, sponsors, partners, all the rest of it. But the rest of the stand, and the majority of the stand has gone from 100 and 180 down to 120 or to 100. So those are quite chunky reductions. The concrete embankment at Suva has gone from 70 and 50 last year to 45 anywhere on the embankment. And the grass, which last year, the two grasses, about 3,000 each is the capacity on those. Last year, the average there was £25. $25. And this time it's $22.50. So, you know, we've reduced the price right across the board, except at the very, very, very top end. And that's a relatively small number of tickets. So I think we're doing our bit. We hope people will appreciate that. I'm sure they will. And now we've got something like 75% of tickets at Suva are $45 or less. So hopefully that will make it much more affordable and people won't feel they're priced out. And we're also going to try and do a better job at letting people know that when it isn't sold out, we've got to get over this perception that, the Drua games, they're always full. They really aren't. That's what we're trying to get to.
What's your thinking about people lining up on the day, just a few hours before the game to buy the tickets?
I don't mind. It causes us some problems if they come in the last half an hour. It really does. If you turn up at 3:10 and so do 2,000 other people, that is a bit of a problem. And logistically, just getting people into the ground, right? But people turning up at Latoka at 8 in the morning and going to Jack's or going to the council offices and buying their ticket at 9:30 and then going for a spot of lunch or doing a bit of shopping or meeting up with friends, that's fine, absolutely fine. Honestly, we're not here to tell people how to buy tickets. We just want them to buy a ticket. We don't care whether they buy it on the day, 4 weeks a day. But on next Monday at 9:00, tickets for the Rebels, both for the Fijian Drua against the Rebels and Fijian Drua against the Rebels, go on sale at all three. You can buy them on your phone or online. You can buy them at Jack's. You can buy them at the Sports Council office from Monday at 9:00. So we're really, really hopeful that this time, for the first time, we do sell out Suva. So we'll have to go and see how we go.
What's the uptake on the online ticket purchase?
Yeah, we've been quite pleased. It was for the first game, we've only done one, obviously. It was about 20%, which might not sound a huge number. I think is pretty good. for a market that is not used to buying online, with a possible exception of Fiji airline tickets, there's not too many products have a big online presence at the moment. And we think 20% is a pretty decent first effort. We haven't really got a target about that. As I said earlier, it's really about giving people choice. We think it's an easy way to do it. We think it's a convenient way to do it. And we think it's a safe way to do it because you've got it on your phone. And all of us, when we leave the house, I'm like, well, what have I got? I've got, got my wallet, got my keys, got my phone. Right, off we go. And you've got your ticket then. You haven't got to worry about losing it. You haven't got to worry about ripping it. You haven't got to worry about where did I put it, or my cousin's taking it. We think it's a really good way to buy it, but we can't force people. The market will tell us, okay? But we're going to keep making it available, pushing it, and if people want to take it up, that's great. If they want to buy it the way they've always bought it, then fine.
Mark, the Drua are playing the Reds this week, a Sunday game. What is the focus going forward, knowing that the team is focused on reaching the finals?
Yes. Look, I think we touched on it earlier, Vijay. The away games are another kettle of fish. Now, we've won one away game in Auckland against Moana, and now we've got two in a row. If you look at our fixtures, by the way, it's worth pointing this out. We're very away weighted in the first half of the season. It was our turn to give a home game away for the Super round 2. So we went away, technically at home, but it was in Melbourne against an Australian team, so not really. Home, away. So the first 5 games, we're away from home 4 times. And then we come home for the Rebels. And then we go away again twice. So, again, for the first 8 games, we've only got 2 at home. And then we come home with a full sail towards the back end when we've got 4 home games, starting with the Blues, and then we've got the Blues, Moana, the Canes, and the Reds. So our home games are weighted towards the back end of the season. So this weekend, I think they're a good side with Queensland. I know they haven't had a great start, 1 from 3, but I've watched all their games, and I think they're a very talented team. They've got quite a few Fijians in it. That's one of the reasons I think they're pretty talented. And I watched them destroy the Force. I mean, took them apart, 70 points. And, I think for one thing you'd safely say about Queensland is if you don't hit and stick your tackles, in other words, you hit them and you stick with them, you don't fall off them, they'll kill you. They'll not literally. They'll hammer you. But we're playing okay. Obviously, we'll draw some confidence from last week, but not too much. Hopefully, it needs to be a bit more. Your confidence can't be based on one performance. But I do think we're growing. I do think we're improving. I do think we've got more cohesion. It's great to have the skipper back. First game at the weekend. That's a big plus for us. And we've got a few more players back, and we got another couple not far away as well. So we're reasonably healthy, whereas week 2, it can change a lot in a fortnight. Week 2, we were a bit frayed around the edges in terms of squad depth. We're a little bit better than that now. We've still got 1 or 2 little think, I don't want to lose another whatever, and then fill in the position. But we're better than we were. So I'm looking forward to it. I'll fly out Saturday, and it's another big challenge, an away game, big team, big stadium. Yeah, looking forward to it.
Thank you, Mark, and on behalf of our listeners and viewers, thank you for taking out time during your busy schedule to come and talk to us about the Drua. Of course, the supporters are ready to cheer them on. With the challenge now to fill the stands. So we call on people to make that effort when the tickets go on sale from Monday with the big game, the double header with the Fijian and Drua Rebels women and the main Fijian Drua taking on the Melbourne Rebels on April 1st. Ensure you get your tickets. Have a great evening.
Download the all-new Fiji Village app. Get the latest news direct to your mobile. Get the latest sports updates from our scoreboards online. Navigate easily through our categories. Watch videos from Straight Talk interviews, local music videos, sports, and many more. You can now easily listen to your favorite radio stations from your phone. Download the all-new Fiji Village app right now.